Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for joining ITTStar's webinar. My name is Sanjana and I'm the moderator for today's session. Thank you for joining ITTStar's Generative AI webinar. Today, we'll dive into a vital subject that is essential for almost every organization to adopt. Regardless of the industry you're in or the current state of your IT infrastructure, GenAI is an essential service that should be an important part of every IT department in industries like finance, healthcare, banking, law, and so many more. Artificial intelligence is no longer an option, it's a necessity. So let's explore how businesses can be future ready to implement best practices and integrate AI into their infrastructures. Our speakers for today are John Aguilar, our sales manager. He's an expert in specializing and integrating both technology and understanding customer needs. Then we'll have Nitin Das, an ML engineer with a specialty in Gen AI. Then finally, we'll have Karunakar Kotha, a senior partner solution architect working at AWS with a background in Gen AI. So here's a quick overview of our session. So John will get us started with talking about ITTStar and our background and expertise with data analytics. Then Karunakar will talk us through some AWS services used. And finally, Nitin will walk us through Gen AI product called Lagini, a tool customized for law firms, and discuss some business use cases for different industries. And then finally, we'll have a Q&A session. So feel free to send any questions that you may have in the Q&A chat. So let's get this started. I'll hand this over to John.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sanjana. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is John Aguilar. I'm our sales manager here at ITTStar, and we're really looking forward to today's content and what we're going to present to you guys. Gen AI is obviously the hot button topic of 2024, kind of going at the end of 2023. It's all anybody could talk about, right? From the news to the stock market to all of these new startups. It's all everybody's talking about. What we want to equip you with is identifying ways that your businesses can start using these services that are on AWS that are just a hand's breadth away from what you're already doing with your business. A lot of the big questions that we get about Gen AI are, that sounds great, but we're too small, or we don't have an AI team, or we don't have experience with that. So it's too far away for us for our roadmap. And we're here to tell you that it's not. It's a lot easier to get involved with AWS, with a partner, to identify some use cases, to identify some proof of concepts, and really start seeing value for your business leveraging some of these tools. So before we get into the technical piece of today's session and having Karunakar and Nitin present some of these technical things to you guys, I'm just going to spend a minute or two talking about ITTStar, where we come from, what kind of partner we are, why we're uniquely situated with our experience and our people and our expertise in this technology to present this information to you. So just a bit of background about who we are, and then we'll get to the meat of the presentation. And by all means, if you ever have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, or write them down and save them for the Q&A. We'd be happy to answer them. And I'll provide my contact detail at the end of the session as well. In case you want to have a follow-up workshop, we'll talk about that in a moment. So a little bit about ITTStar, some areas of expertise. We've been around for 12 years. We're an advanced AWS consulting partner. We're all in on AWS and AWS services and technologies. Areas of our expertise are optimizing cloud infrastructure, migrating applications to AWS, establishing data strategies and analytics strategies on AWS, building out BI and private dashboards, customer-facing dashboards, embedded analytics, all of those areas. AI comes kind of at the end of the data journey, right? So once all those data sources are identified and the data handling and enhancement process is kind of fully built out and matured, that's when AI is at its easiest to accomplish. So we've got a lot of experience, 7 or 8 years now on AWS with building out these data engineering and analytics strategies and roadmaps for our customers. Other areas of expertise here, building out enterprise applications, the concept of DevOps and DevSecOps, automating security within the DevOps pipeline, and then, of course, machine learning and building out models and training models for our customers. I'll also touch on our 24/7 services, but in just a moment. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. As I mentioned, we've got folks all over the globe. Total size for our organization is about 150 folks today. So a smaller partner, but we're very focused on the data and AI side of what AWS can bring to your organization in IT assets. So a little bit more about our services here. I want to start with our 24/7 teams, right? A lot of our customers leverage ITTStar as a partner to not only enable different AWS services and capabilities for them when it comes to their AWS strategy, but also to provide 24/7 support in multiple areas, leveraging our global team. Since we've got folks based out of the States, out of the UK, out of Dubai, and out of Bangalore, India, we've got to follow the sun model that allows our customers to have the necessary operational confirmation and security with our network operations center, our security operations center, our enterprise development team, our managed database and database as a service team, and our data operations teams. So from a support perspective, we'd love to understand what some requirements might be, what some challenges you might have in the off hours when it comes to these areas. Our professional services offerings, all about data analytics, AI and machine learning, like I mentioned, building out intelligent applications for document analysis or personalization within existing applications, helping our customers interact better with their customers, hands-on, right there on the screen, building out data platforms and ETL strategies and pipelines. And I mentioned reinforcing the concept of DevSecOps, incorporating security into already established CI/CD best practices. So a little bit more about our cloud operations teams. In today's market, partners are charging a lot, for NOC and SOC services. It's very difficult to find that for a business that kind of has that budget high end, So we'd love to talk to you guys about how we make our operations team scalable based on the size of our customers' businesses or their requirements. If you already have operational teams that are monitoring, alerting, triaging incidents around the clock, and they're getting overworked, that's where our team can come in. So we'd love to understand what you guys are doing and what your requirements might be around 24/7 infrastructure and application operations, as well as data operations. Data doesn't stop. Data doesn't have a 9-to-5 job. And there are a lot of different steps to cleansing and enhancing data pipelines so that your data can be at your fingertips and give you all the insights that you need. So there's a lot of different steps within the moment the piece of data is created to how it's curated, how it's cleansed, how it's enhanced, and how it's used. Our data ops team can work around the clock to assist you with those tasks and those non-automatable tasks that your team does not have the time of day in their 9-to-5 or 9-to-7 or 12-to-12, for some of you. So we'd love to talk to you about how you're operating your data. I mentioned database support. We all know DBAs are very talented and very hard to find and quite expensive in today's market. If you've got database environments that are specialized, that need operational support from a 24/7 perspective, even if that's just patching, maintaining, installing, and configuring new databases, that's where a 24/7 team can really help out by having a light touch that's cost efficient and that can leverage those off hours to perform some of these critical database operations that need to happen. Application performance is all about what is coming from the database, right? So we'd love to talk to you about some of our case studies and success stories of what we do when it comes to database support. And then obviously sliding into some of our experience when it comes to AI/ML. Our AI team has been performing both internal and external AI projects and proof of concepts and development for the past 5 years. Ever since the machine learning competency came out on AWS and some of the first deep learning applications were built, our team has been involved from not only workshop, but also hands-on with customers. So if you have an identified use case that you want to have a conversation about, if you want to understand how you can make your workers have more time for efficiency to reduce the amount of lag between customer contact and your team, these are all different types of case studies and use cases we're going to be talking about in today's session about AI. So if any of these topics strike your interest, we'd love to talk to you about it. And that's why I'm almost done, y'all, I promise. That's why if you meet with us, we'd love to do after today's session, if you have a use case that you'd like to explore, we'd love to provide any of our attendees in this webinar with a free proof of concept, no cost from ITTStar, right? We'll talk to you about how we can build what your use case is on AWS, what kind of incremental process we can incorporate and help you improve on whatever that AI use case is, or what that business challenge is that you think might be solvable by AI. So take a note, take a screenshot. I promise I'll hold us to it, right? We'd love to get involved and show you what AI can really do, okay? Awesome. So I know you didn't come here to hear my pitch, right? So I'm going to hand the mic over to Karunakar. Sanjana mentioned Karunakar is a partner solutions architect, senior partner solutions architect. That means two things. Not only has Karunakar gotten involved with customers on AWS and understood their challenges, he's also worked with an abundance of partners as they also go out and implement these AI use cases for their customers. So he's been able to approach these problems and see how people solve these business challenges from two different angles. So he's got a lot of information and a lot of experience in this area, and I really hope you get something out of what he has to present. But thanks for giving me 5 minutes, team and attendees. Really appreciate it. Excited to get started. Karunakar, I'll hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, John, for the intro. Again. Hello, everyone. Myself, Karunakar Kota. I work for AWS. Thank you again for attending the webinar today to understand how can we transform business using AWS GenAI. Well, before we get into more detail, first and foremost, I like to cover in general what is GenAI and what is meant to be used across the enterprise. Well, AI replicates different tasks. And in this case, we are talking about repetitive tasks that you do every day where you need some human intelligence, but sometimes it can be expensive and very repetitive. So that's what actually part of generative AI is purpose for. The second is today most AI systems are created using machine learning, which is very good thing in that sense, especially when AWS comes across, because we have a great experience today in AI/ML space, for many years. And generative AI, which is a segment of AI, right? So it helps you to create new content. It can be text, image, and any other different sources. Now, before we move on, it's very important to talk about three areas, in terms of security, privacy, and responsible AI. And this is where AWS takes it very seriously, especially to maintain high level of security, where we use shared responsibility model, where we take care of infrastructure guidelines, API controls, and so on. Whereas you control your data, and in that sense, you have total control of your data. You can encrypt your data. In terms of privacy, you have total control of your information at your end, and AWS has no access to that information. Even when it's you're using large language models, which is LLMs in generative AI, it actually stateless technology, which means once you finish your inquiry, which you are processing in LLM, that means nothing is left behind. And that actually in transit from a native perspective with GenAI, it also stays in AWS ecosystem, which is going to be more secure in that case. Now, coming back to the responsible AI, okay, this is where you have complete control and you can build your foundation models. You can use guardrails. We can dive deep into the discussion later on to see how can you set boundaries, like for each LLM is responding to. For example, you might be protecting data like PII or language tone and so on. Okay. Now let's deep dive into generative AI. Well, there are three areas. People talk about generative AI. One of them is enhancing your customer experience, which is very important. Productivity. You want your team to be have a greater results with the increasing the productivity and business process, right? And the question comes, oh, what is generative AI? For the most part, people think that about it could be chatbots or the most common use cases in many ways. Virtual assistants and chatbots are very interesting, maybe at a starting point, especially for your internal case. And then later on, you can move to the next level of stages. For example, like with Amazon.com, today we have generative AI as part of helping customers to talk to customer support team and so on. Now, when you see higher yields in terms of increasing the productivity of your team or having extra business process in those laborious repetitive work which your team is doing that are very very entrenched to the business, this is where you can use generative AI, which comes very handy. And you can see from here, you have some conversation search, summarization, sometimes content generation, or if you are running an IT big shop which you want to implement the best practices, process optimization or cybersecurity guidelines. So generative AI is not only used to help end users, but it can be used across the enterprise. Now, when I flip this image, you'll see different industry use cases. You can starting from healthcare, life sciences to media and entertainment. In healthcare, life sciences, you have some use cases about drug discovery, clinical trials, research, and reporting. And if you look into every single industry, even in the legal space, you would see that document summarization, or when it comes to semantic search or drafting documents, which is very good piece of information, doesn't matter which industry you are aligned. So they take a lot of time, right? So if you can benchmark today, how long does it take for certain process? This is where we can come together and start using generative AI to help you out. So to inspire you with a few different use cases, I have slides that I'm going to talk about different use cases which we have already implemented today.
So, Karunakar, we understand that GenAI can help different domains. And is there like a particular example of like how it could help healthcare, or like how could we implement GenAI for like nursing homes, for example?
Yeah, good question, Sanjana. As I mentioned, right now, generative AI is being used in healthcare. And coming back to your question, as you mentioned, you're talking about nursing home. Yes, you can implement some AWS services like Amazon Comprehend Medical and Amazon Transcript Medical to extract of clinical data from medical records, gathering the notes from unstructured text to loading into some data. This can save nurse significant time on creating a documentation. Okay, or you can implement Amazon Lex powered chatbots to handle some common patient questions and requests. Rather than get a support from nurse, you get a support from Lex chatbots. That will save a lot of time. So first of all, let us understand how can you boost your productivity. Okay, well, as I mentioned, you can use Q&A chatbots to answer your questions. Maybe it could be on manuals if you're looking for a information that is already repetitive, and you can do source fast tracking. You can consolidate data in context, conversation, or history. And depending upon how you implement or how how the business workflow, you can use web interface, or you can integrate with your existing tools at your ecosystem. Maybe for example, you can see here we have Slacks and Teams, so you can integrate with the Slacks and team. And in this presentation, you can see that we have a couple of gateways, and you can use them as interface. But when you talk about finding information, consolidating that information is presenting at a single layer. You need to have a different connectors, right? And the different ways to connect. For example, you have Slack and Team, which is good. But if you have a different ways that you want to connect, which I'm going to talk in the next slide. I don't want to go into every specific connector in this webinar today, but the main idea for me is to present that it is open to have a data in a different places, right? So, for example, if you use AWS technologies in GenAI, you can use that data stays or already stays in your AWS account. But if you don't, that's not a problem. We can connect to your Google Drive, Gmail, Office 365, and even different workflows to gather the information. One thing I like to highlight here, we index the information and helps you to search and provide a link once the information is retained. So it is very important for me to highlight in this presentation is that we are not duplicating your data. Your data stays exactly in the original data source. But what we are doing is we are creating index vectors on your data to find the information, which can be a link, it can be a document, or it could be a passage in the document, or it could be a structured data that you can host or connect to your SQL database. But so what are we doing here is combining data structured and non-structured, structured and non-structured data places, right? Then once you have that information, for example, you can create a data lake for creating and pulling the data for documents. So we can start playing around different capabilities with our data. Okay. Here is an example using Amazon QuickSight with GenAI that we are doing three important things. We are using natural language to visualize and create reports or classify information based on those reports and data. On top of that, you can do quick qualifications and visualization, and you can fine tune your visualization or data. What is the big value here? Your users don't have to understand the coding language for generating the reports or even SQL language to get the information extracted. On the flip side, from structured data to unstructured data, we have created this tool called RFI and RFP responses, where it's actually finding information that you have already used before. For example, let's say you answer many RFIs, okay, before, and you don't have the time to find out the information over and over again, or you maybe feel that it's a waste of time. So we benchmark a couple of questions, okay, or a couple of use cases. Sometimes customers were taking days or even weeks to find the right information. So we created a tool using generative AI that matches the exact each question to maybe give 5 potential answers or less. Again, you can configure that particular settings. Essentially, you can have a draft document which can be written in manual maybe in a minutes or hours. So you save a lot of time. So in this slide, you can see that there's a delta here, which you are reducing the time from weeks and days to sometimes in minutes or hours. Okay. So where exactly you want to use this tool? Sorry. So where exactly you want to use this tool? I know you can use in your sales team. You can use with your architecture team or a general counsel or any other department that you're trying to create questions and answers to get faster response. I'd like to talk about few use cases where we have implemented. For example, in e-commerce space or retail, this is where we have several tools. But here are a few logos of different references that we have been used using Amazon personalization. It's a Gen AI tool that we have today, where you can use personalization to guide your users to find better products or find the relevant information based on their search or history. And instead of you trying to find out what is best option for them, it is how you can drive them in a much quick manner. One of the retail case that I would like to talk about as a case study, for a store called Dress the Population, what we did was fast tracking their digital shopping experience. And this is where the impact was really big. Within 72 hours, they were able to increase their revenue by 300% based on their visitors. And after 14 days, they saw 25% lift in their, 28% lift in their conversion. So this is how generative AI can become very handy based on your retail e-commerce here. Okay. So the next question is, can we integrate with the different technologies and tools that you have in your backend? Yes, definitely. The answer is yes. But we need to deep dive and find out what tools you have and how the integration should be there, that I can work with your team later on, or ITTStar team can work with you to identify the integration. And next one is that if you transact within different vendors, what you can also do is that you can dump your data, your information, your pricing list, or the reviews of the products or anything, and from there you can find out what is good or bad. That's another use case that you can explore in this space now. Okay. Now coming back to healthcare, especially in healthcare and life science, as I mentioned, we are already implementing generative AI use cases. So this is what we did with Philips. Okay, we are using different information coming from patients worldwide to help customers in hospitals and healthcare imaging to make better decision, right? So the big challenge was, how can you process billions of images at scale with high performance, right? So when we talk about data sets, you're not only talking about small images, you're talking about hospitals handling millions of images. For example, in this case, 390 million images. So how can you find image or a data in a medical records? This is where semantic search based on text and image becomes very relevant in terms of providing you the right patient care information faster and quicker, right? So Philips uses technologies today to change the way they are providing healthcare solutions at a scale and worldwide. And actually, the next area that I want to talk about is the financial services. Actually, I picked a couple of use cases which currently implemented in the banking world, and here are different ways you can see it. Starting with the Santander Bank, National West, as well as PennyMac. PennyMac uses different GenAI technologies or even AI components per se, right? So they uses NLP, natural language process, to automate loan and document processing. Okay, and they had actually thousands of documents being received every day. And in USA we do a lot of credit decisions. So instead of doing it as a manual process, we use machine learning to leverage different alternative data set to understand the risk as well as liabilities that can be done for that matter. And remember the use case, we talk about retail. This is what NatWest did for the entire online banking solution. They used a personalized Amazon services. You can suggest new products or banking products or solutions based on their users request or user search. And then if we deep dive into Elements Healthcare, okay, they are using today Textract. This is actually in the banking industry, even though it looks like FSI, but Textract is very useful for them to process a lot of documents, which is faster and actually within a very low cost effective. Okay, so Textract, basically what they do is that they are helping them to reduce, generally what it takes was 20 minutes to understand whether the claim in a matter of maybe understanding the claim. Earlier was 20 minutes. Now using Textract, it is reduced to 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, with the contextual search and the backend. Now for banco sector, Santander is in UK. Well, in UK they reduce onboarding time with their companies. Advantage of using AWS. So the issue was basically, how can you understand public information customer application findings, and what are the gaps, and identify the areas where you can quickly come back some missing data, or guiding the bankers to find the information which is relevant to their application. So the big value here is, generally earlier they were used to take 12 days on average to find out any information. Now it takes only 2 days by using AWS Generative AI in Santander Bank. Well, again, thank you everyone. If you have any questions, particular use case or anything, you can reach out to ITTStar. I'm ready to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Karunakar. We actually do have a question in the chat, so let me just ask you that really quick. So one of the participants said, regarding healthcare or even nursing homes, they're curious about integrating their electronic health records into LLM and GenAI. So they're saying, for example, I can ask my chatbot or ask the chatbot, how many patients do we have in a specific shift over the past week? Or is it possible to kind of ask a chatbot questions about the facility or units, depending on permissions given to specific users?
So if I understand the question, so this is under the healthcare and nursing home, is it, Sanjana?
Correct, it's for that.
Yeah, definitely. We have few use cases that I can send a reference document, or I can start working with you, ITTStar team. Yes, we have few services starting from Amazon Component Medical, as I mentioned, and Amazon Lex powered chatbots. Yes, they can use chatbots to find relevant information before they go to nurse or wait for a long time, right? And they can use Amazon Transcribe Medical, which automatically transcribe nurse patient conversation, which they can get into some patient record, and they can summarize all the information, and they can generate in a single document in last 30 days or 60 days if the patient wants to identify.
Okay, that makes sense, Karunakar. We also have a follow-up question regarding how do you ensure that data privacy and ethical considerations are upheld when using GenAI for healthcare industries?
Well, again, as I mentioned, when it comes to AWS, security is very high concern, and we take as a responsibility of a shared responsibility model, where we manage the infrastructure, guidelines, and API controls, and the customer, here in this case, healthcare insurance provider, they have a complete control of the data. Even if they are using a large language models, LLMs, still once they are done with the inquiry, it's not going to stay, so nothing is left behind. So we have a complete responsibility of what needs to be done from AWS as well as the customer.
Okay, great job explaining that, Karunakar. Thank you. Let's pass this over to Nitin so that he can get started on the next part of the presentation. And we do have some more questions we'll get to at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Sanjana.
Thank you, Sanjana. And thank you, Karunakar. You have kept the audience on GenAI capabilities. You gave a very brief understanding on what AI and GenAI can do. Let me start with my presentation then. Yeah. So this is how my agenda is going to look like for today. And for all Karunakar just mentioned, right? So I've just added 3 applications for that, like what text summarization, text generation, and Q&A system. I'll go one-on-one with how these help in culminating the chatbot or the final LLM based chatbot, what it can be done. So I'll be giving you that explanation in these, and we'll also take a look at how generative AI application components has to come together for an end-to-end application to work. We'll also see what is the art of this. You need data set, and especially a enterprise data set, and how a normal data set is not going to be of much help for a GenAI to work, but how these data sets have to be converted into vector embeddings, and how vector embeddings are again used by RAG. RAG, giving you a very brief, I'll give you the full form as of now. That will be retrieval, augmented, and generation. So we'll also see how these steps, what are the steps involved in having RAG implemented in our GenAI application. And finally, I will also walk you through with running production application, which we have developed for Logini. and that's for a legal-based architecture. Okay, so let's start with text summarization. We have Bedrock from Amazon, AWS Bedrock. See, if I can give you a brief background, when LLM foundation models came into picture, there was a lot of a hustle because we had to, although we add a number of models from Hugging Face, Cohere, and different places, we also had to host these models, serve it, and then think of interacting with the model. But Bedrock, it's a serverless. You just go to the Bedrock service. I'll also show you guys from my AWS console how Bedrock looks like and what are the different foundation models they offer. And the best part of the Bedrock is you just have to integrate it. It works with, again, Python, Java, whatever, like the Lambda function we have. We can just hit it with an API call, do all the configurations, and get the answers for that. And yeah, text summary. If you have like PDFs containing 50 to 100 pages or 20 to 50 pages, we have, and it gives you a summary in a short 1 or 2 pages. Again, the control is within you. You can determine how big the summary you want. Do you want it in points, or do you want to emphasize certain capabilities pertaining to that domain of whatever PDF or any other documents we're gonna send over. And coming to text generation, so if you guys have an idea of how the previous gen chatbot used to work, these chatbots, the intents and the response had to be manually mapped. Only the natural language processing of the backend used to have kind of ML or AI logic to it. But again, it was intended by a designer had to give for this particular intent. This was a response. This is how it is to go in the previous generation of chatbots. But now with the capability of generation, the bot or LLM model, what you guys have with ChatGPT or Gemini, all this is able to generate new content. So when you say Gen AI, it's nothing but generation. It generates code, it generates pictures, it generates new data, all just like a human being can. You produce an app, which was not in the past. That is where the industry is going to see the next evolution, or the next big change, paradigm shift is going to happen because of this generation part. And again, LangChain is one of the framework which is going to help us with all these wrapping of RAG, different databases, getting the prompts, a lot of options on those. And with the support of these two, we come to our application called Q&A system, that is question and answering system. You upload a document, you ask any question pertaining to the document. Also, you can have a referral document or internet data. You can combine both and ask a question, and the bot is going to generate an answer like a human being itself, not like referring to a pre-considered or a presumed answer, which previous chatbot generation used to have. I'm so sorry. Let me just go ahead and show you how the Bedrock looks like in our AWS console. I'll also show you what are the different LLM foundational models we have. So this is the console. This is our AWS console. And Bedrock is one of the service. If you guys can see my screen, then towards my left there are different providers. Let me go check the providers whom we have. We have our Amazon's own foundational models and embedding model called Titan. Apart from that, we do have A121 Labs, Anthropic. In Anthropic, you guys should be very well aware of the new Claude, three sets of Claude, that's Haiku, Sonnet, and 3.5, which again, based on our interest and budget, we can choose one. And core models, meta models. Under Meta, you have Llama 3 also is on the way, and Mistral AI and Stability AI for, you guys should be aware of image generation, right? We have a Midnight Journey and all this. So we cannot, AWS also has partnerships, and only we do have, major competitive LLM and foundation models here. The best part is you don't have to host it on your own. Like if you want, if that is a possibility, it has also been provided by AWS. We can do fine tuning, everything hosting on ourselves. But for a quick fix, or go for a ready POCs, we can always go for Bedrock, choose one of these and go. And we also have examples. You have a playground here. If you can see, you can chat, you can test the models, choose one model and see which is working good for you, and we can work on it. So this is how it looks. Let me go back to my slides. And so overview of a Gen AI application, we often we just might just be very overwhelmed with the front end application and not know what is happening in the back end. So I'm going to spread it down and give you an overall idea how this different components have to come into together to give a end-to-end application. So first we have a front-end application, a web app. I'll also be showing one of our home solutions for one of our client, Hitchcock, for a law firm. I'll be doing that down the slides. So with the front-end application, we have linkage to our FM interface. That's here is nothing but the Bedrock what we have. Bedrock has its own environment. It's hosted there. And in case we need a fine tuning, we can do that. If not, it's fine. And we do have the next major part. Once we set the LLM model what we want, we need to get the relevant data sets from our enterprise database. So either you have a database here or you have a database without a vector capability, we can get conversion there. And if you can remember what Karnakar said, Q does all these steps from, I would say, from step 2 till the text. All these is taken care by Q. So it does on our backend. We also have alternate solution for that. I'll be showing you both the use cases. And with the database, what we have, we get the embeddings. We embed the embeddings with the augmentation of the prompts and get the answers for it. Yeah. So working with datasets and embeddings. Enterprise dataset, what do you mean by that? And often we have databases in MySQL, PostgreSQL, and all that. It does work to an extent for semantic search, and all this can be to an extent done. But when it comes to the power of vectorizing, I'll be showing that in the coming slides. It is a very much need for how vector has to be. How every image. I'll just go to the next slide and explain. It's going to be better for you. So what are vector embeddings and how this conversion takes place? So if you see, the raw data can come in different forms, either an image, an audio, or document. So when you say documents, again, at the end of the day, it's a text from a document, what we extract. So these texts on the back end, it has to be converted into vectors. What are vectors? Again, an array of numbers. They can be normalized into zeros. Just why vectors and why database? I'll show in the next slide, you'll understand. So every embedding model has its vector space. If you can see here, Twitter, tweet, and tweets. It's like grouping of words in a library. You can just take an example of a big library where you have segregated each topics in one corner and another topic in another corner. So the same way we realize in n-dimensional vector space, we do have, if you can see that although we have color coded here, in reality, it is just for our identification. We see the food items are located somewhere above 50 and towards x-axis and y-axis. So this way, whenever a new document comes into picture, it goes into this particular vector space what we have, and it's ready for the semantic search to do its job. And we'll take an example. And why does the LLM need vector search? In this other example, we can see how different words we are converted into 3-dimensional vector space. And if you can see, in the similarities between a student and a school is very close, but a student and a food or a meat is very far by far. There's a very vague understanding on how it's going to work in the backend, but this is very essential if you can understand how the search and how even ChatGPT is representing an answer. There has to be a library in the back where it has to do its ML algorithms or search, semantic cosine search, and to get back the answers. This is how it works. And to talk to this enterprise database, what we have, we do have APIs, and with the API calls, we also send in the semantic search. So the foundation of this has to be, again, the front-end application has to do a lot of these kind of interactions, API calls, again, which goes with the backend. Let me quickly get back to our GenAI law-based application. So this is our UI. So coming back to our enterprise asset and the front-end application and mobile apps, what we haven't still deployed into a mobile application. Down the line, we do have possibilities of doing that for associates, law firms. And let me just show you guys how the UI looks. Here, this is for a law firm, so we do have a UI specified by them. We have case title, offense type, client name assigned. So once we fill in this, we add the case, and we do have cases, individual case titles, and we have case files here where we go and choose a PDF. Let me just go and check my repo for some cases. Let me upload this particular case. Let me upload. And while this background buffering is happening, I'll just walk you over like how this file from this upload from the UI, how it's going to travel through our architecture, which we have. So Law Genie. So this is for a law firm called Hitchcock, which we have presented our solution. So they started with a repo for legal precedents, case laws, and documents, which they wanted, or some kind of an online help to have a digital, digital database or element just for search and query. But with that, we came with this also with a basic search criteria which help with analysis, but we added more intelligence to it using GenAI capabilities. So how? Let's see. So this is how the high level architecture works. And I'll also show you the flow and the logs, how it goes through each. We have a multi-page document, which I just uploaded there. And what it's going to do is it's going to sit in S3 bucket. S3 is a storage in AWS, more like a drive. So it has a folder structure there. So from S3, we have trigger options to trigger a Lambda function. This is where all the compute works. And when I mean compute, it's a serverless compute. It has a 15 minutes timeout. But yeah, that's again, considering the cost and the swiftness of serverless can do, it's a better option what we found out. So this Lambda function is hard. What it does is, it first sends the PDF documents to extract, which Karnakar earlier referred to. What it does, like it extracts text from documents. And now I think the recent advancement of TextStat is conversational search, what Karnakar just added. Apart from that, it is also having the capability to extract forms, extract layouts. It's very intelligent for as of now when we compare to 4 years back when we started for a digital catalog with a different use case using computer vision. So it does that. It extracts all the text from there and immediately it sends to a Bedrock model. Here we are using Core model. It's an LLM model for summarizations, and we also have a bit of tweaking in prompt to avoid few things. That is again, different law firms or different industries might have their own specification and how they would want to see the solution. We can customize that using prompts. And SNS and SQS is just a simple notification system and a simple queue system where we don't want to lose track of multiple pages being extracted. So that is a small setup there to not lose any data chunks there. And we send it to RDS. RDS here specifically we're using Postgres DB. The Postgres DB also has PG Vector plugin. That is the only reason we opted for that. If not, we would have gone with open search, semantic search. That is also very good solution for this. So I'll just have the next slide open and go to our flow and show if this is the bucket we have. Let's see if we do have our file. So for case in our case, the PDF which I've downloaded, it's been uploaded. If you see after the upload, what happens is I've also connected this particular trigger system to our Lambda function. I'm opening it here. So for the public purpose, I won't be able to show you the code, but I would be okay showing you the the logs so that we'll have a better understanding how it works and what are the metrics we calculate for a successful IDP, intelligent document processing. Let's wait for the logs to pull up. We do have the latest logs, and if you can see, around 20 seconds is what it took for our PDF to extract, and we have the summary. I'll just show the summary in our UI, but I'm just giving you the backend logs. And for the LLM to execute, it just took around 9 seconds. So that within 30 seconds, we do have a summary of maybe it was around 15 pages. Let me check that as well. Let me go back to the UI. Yeah, so this is a case statement. Let me just open the file itself. I know the most of the it could be most of the what to say. It's around 8 pages of PDF, and most of the cases audience are from out of India. But this is a Indian case statement. We also have, so it's around 8 pages. So if you can see petitioner number 5, so it takes, it's time consuming to go through. Again, we are not denying the part lawyers and law firms have to be very precise on the points by not missing out any page or any words. But there are some legal terms, terminologies which cause lengthy explanation or contextual data. So we minimize that because LLM can understand its own what is necessary and what is not. There is another capability where we do have a library kind of, we can also have a library model if you're doing it for separate counties. We can have their own government data here as a FBIs or CBIs or different actual government oriented policies or law forms or which they can use as guidelines. It could be their uh, internal library, whatever it is. We can load it and we can ask the question for a particular case and compare it. It's all based on the questions and the prompts we use. It can intelligently connect both the present case what we have and the library of policies or what the government does, and it can give an intelligent solution. So this here it is. We have a summary of all these pages in just a page. Post this, Kanaka also mentioned about Q, right? We started with Q, and let me show you. So we have Q embedded in this particular icon. So we just saw how a PDF is being entered and we get the summary. So it doesn't end there. Although this is an intelligent process, we can just make it even more intelligent by asking questions, asking analytical questions, all this into this queue. I'll make some notes. Let me see. With Q, again, we don't have to do all this, right? So if you can see, I just asked to give a case details of Kartigoda. It's going on generating, it gives the brief, and it also gives me the source of the queue. The one better advantage of queues. We can also do this with RAG, but if you have good permissions, it also shows you the location of the PDF where it is. And I can ask was this is like my own questions, but again, the law firms, they'll have better ideas or better questions to go about it. So it gives you like this, and so you guys get the concept, right? How it works in the back end. You can be more intelligent or whatever, and these prompts can also be, if suppose there are some cases where the answer is not, so you would get a prompt saying that the provided data source does not contain any information of a DUI case, which this was a PDF which we haven't yet uploaded. We tried to ask questions and it says no, it's not, but it can still do so. So this is one using Q. The same thing we have also developed. This is our internal chatbot. So let me ask another question to it. So we have this. So I'll give you the difference between the particular bot what I just showed and the Q bot. By the time it's generating, it's already generated, I believe. Yes. Based on the product, converts the key witness and suspect are a significant role in the case. So you guys got a brief idea, right, how it works in both. So I just showed you two different implementation of Q&A bot. One is using a RAG technique or raw method from all particular coding wise. Here the precision can't be argued about because we each use different indexes, which I'll be covering in the different slides. This was built from scratch, the bot on the RAG. And if you have Q, if you don't have much time, you don't have much budget to spend on developers, or it's just a connector and indexes, which I'll come back to it, you can always go for Q. And it's just a one-shot integration, don't have to think much about it. You just have you can see, right, when I click on the chat assist, it has its own UI and you have your prompts here, built here. All this can be also done. So 2 ways we can move forward. And yeah. So this was our testimonial from our client that says they add good experience with the summary, but they also wanted more improvement in terms of legal language. That's where we got into our own chatbot, training it very in. But so let me quickly, as concern of time, let me quickly finish this off by giving the impacts and results. What we had with AI powered IDP, we had 70% reduction in document review and 40% increase in research efficiency, as I just showed you. And RAG, so RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So what happens here is the question what we ask, if you see the first step, with the context, it goes to the foundation model with the embeddings and we get the answer. How? And it also, you see, if the second step, if you go into the third, the question with the prompt goes to a vector database, gets back the relevant answer. This is where the similarity search does, that's a cosine similarity search. And when a new data pops in, that maybe the next one is going to be very easy for you. So two main steps we have in RAG. One is indexing and one is retrieval. When it comes to indexing, all we have to do is load the data. You see how the data is being split into different chunks, and different chunks are again converted to vectors and sent into a vector store. So this is how the basic flow looks like. We have a data source, data chunks per PDF split into chunks and convert into an embedding model. The embedding model converts all the text into vectors, put it in the vector store. And when a new prompt or a question comes in, along with the question, a similarity search happens on the vector store, where you see a cosine similarity search or different indexes. Based on indexed results, we get very good context. And with this context, we go back with the user prompt, combine it into the LLM model, it gives you the answer. So few challenges is managing multiple data sources. As I showed you, the similarity search has to go between both, but our engineers made a very good attempt on it, and we're getting very good results. So we have to create embeddings that takes time, and orchestration and scaling mechanism. As we are in AWS, we don't have to worry about that. It scales on its own. We always have an option to that. So when coming to index, we have two main indexes: IVFF flat, that is inverse file format flat, and HNSW, that is hierarchical, navigable, small world. So you don't have to completely get into this. It's just an understanding how indexing at the backend. In a basic database for a search, what happens? We have primary key, we have sort keys and distributor keys, right? In that way, we have a little more advanced indexing for a vector to get its particular similar context. So we use IVV flat when we require a fast index build time, but accuracy is compromised here. With HNSW, although it takes slower time to build, we have better accuracy. Maybe with a pictorial visualization, you get better. There's an entry point of the index. It goes to it not only see if you take flat index, what happens is it goes to the nearest neighbors. It just sees one or two and gets basic ML algorithm. But with an hierarchical one, it goes through the vertices data and processing, goes to another layer, and until it's just, if it's too complex for you, I would say it's just avoiding local minima at the real. Here, if it's a local minima, it's going to end soon. But here, it takes a longer time to hit the local minima, hence gathering more accurate cosine similarity searches with us. So yeah, coming to the last part, and we do have different from ITTStar. What I would say, we specialize in these particular industries. When it comes to healthcare, although Karunakar gave few very good examples, what I would say GenAI can be used to automatically, generate patient reports and care plan. When you say, and it's personalized reports. Once these, see all these, if a patient goes to an hospital, how many files does he have, how many documents from clinical notes, the reports, the MRI scans. Imagine all these for a single person is converted into text, and you have a proper patient timeline. When you say patient timeline, you can build it for per person, per patient. Is date of visit, is prescriptions, all this combined in a data, and you put it in GenAI. It can give you personalized care plans. Doctors' notes, anything, and nurses, if they're working on, the time this time nurses spend on this paperwork can be reduced to so much of an extent, so that they can give more extra care to patients by intelligently. This thereby coming back to the point what Karunakar said was increasing the efficiency as well. So there's a lot of scope in GenAI what you can do for healthcare because of a lot of data points. In financial services, personalized tax savings or based on your spend amount. We can have apps built into the banking sectors, giving you personalized needs. That's the future, guys. Down the line, everything is going to be personalized based on your interest, based on your spends. Everything is going to be, even the offers. Most of the things can be very personalized to you, thereby differentiating the strengths and weaknesses of one another. And it uses for two services. And retail, I would say chatbot. Yeah, chatbot, if you see for the refunds and you have some order summaries, all these can be very intelligently processed. You don't, that doesn't mean it's replacing human turn. It's just avoiding the mishap and giving you very precise answers and very precise details instead of you having someone to go back and query it. The bot has everything in front of you for retail. In manufacturing sector, yeah, we do have deep learning or computer vision, which can analyze the sensor data and say if it's broken even before it's coming out of the plant. One advantage, this is again not coming to GenAI, I'm talking about complete deep learning or computer vision. With collaboration of GenAI to this particular tool, what happens is, instead of you again going and creating reports based on all this data, just adding GenAI to the machine learning or a deep learning output, you have a complete solution, right? It can create a report on its own. It can trigger alarms. It can say this particular part, and it can also go back to analysis and give you analytics. What will be the downfall, or what will be the rate of maybe the next batch what you want to process. So all this can be made even more intelligent with the existing intelligent systems. Finally, I have like 3 layers, as I told. On the top layer, we to have a recap, we also saw Amazon Q, how it worked, and we used Bedrock for the second model what we had. We covered both of this. Again, when it comes to infrastructure, of this is where if firm needs their own setup, their own LLMs being hosted in their own environment, we can go with the third layer. And I would also take this time to thank my team, Karthik, who developed a beautiful UI in the front end, Amit and Nikhil from AI ML Ops background. They helped us moving these documents into. They also see when it comes to our team, we also find different indexes, how it can help. We went with different databases. We found the optimum. So all this was done by them. And we have our data scientists. What they do is they gather more data from different places. They see how it's relevant to a particular use case or the law firm, and they build the best practices based on that. I would again take this time to thank them for completing our Logini solution. And thank you guys. And one last thing I would say, if you guys felt it very interesting or you want to just, start seeing change or have an idea how GenAI can impact your business, please meet with us for a free POC on GenAI. AWS has your full support on this. We'll scale your business forward. Yes, Sanjana, you can take over. Let me stop here.
Great. Thank you so much, Nathan. That was a great presentation. So now let's wrap this up. Now it's time for a quick Q&A session. So let's answer some of the questions that we've gotten from the participants. We'll try our best to answer as many questions as possible, but if we don't get to your question, we'll definitely respond through email, so keep an eye out. We also provide an exclusive session for your organization's needs. So, feel free to email us with any inquiries or questions to our sales manager, John. So let's see, our first question. Can AI help reduce paperwork for our clinical staff, and how would it impact the workload?
Should I take it then? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is something, again, I've explained in the webinar. I think we got this. Oh, let me show. So it does. See, we have TextRact. I didn't have much time to show how the TextRact. Maybe if the concerned question is coming from one of the clients, we can take it offline and show you how TextRact is. Definitely, to answer your question, it does reduce the impact because we have IDP TextRacts, which intelligently processes the text what's coming out, and based on different functionalities we add, it can always reduce the efficiency, reduce the paperwork and increase the efficiency. Yes.
Great, thank you, Nathan. Our next question is, how do we get started, or where do I start with GenAI?
I'll take up this question, Nathan. Okay. So I recommend for them to identify what are the regular tasks which they are doing, which if they feel that, if a customer feel that they are doing a lot of repetitive tasks which they are not able to see any efficiency or reduce the time. So identify the use case. Okay, identifying the use case and start working with the AWS services. I can send like a few AWS services. They can start working, and as Nitin mentioned, bringing up the use case, we can start working on a POC, and accordingly we can take it to next step. But I recommend start identifying the use cases which they want to implement on their ecosystem. That's really important.
Thank you, Karunakar. Our next question is, how do knowledge graphs fit into Gen AI?
You want to take that question, Nitin?
Yes. How it falls in the sense, knowledge graph, when you say it's the data is connected, right? It's more relationship. If you can, there was one database, vector search. When you see vector search, when I showed you that hierarchy from the top layer to down layer, it is nothing but a graph itself, graph-based approach. So when you say how it fits in, it is a necessity based on the complexity of the data. So if it is just you're using Gen AI to ask one-to-one questions, which doesn't have context, which doesn't have relationship, you can avoid knowledge graphs. You don't have to use them. You can have one-to-one, just have the database, a simple database, a relation database, and go with giving the context and getting the answer. But when you go for this healthcare and different deep industries, definitely knowledge graphs are needed, and GenAI is already using that in the backend.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. So let's take one more question before we start wrapping up. Can I use Gen AI to build a credit scoring system based on alternative data?
Well, I take up this question, Nitin. Okay. Yes, definitely, Sanjana. You can use generative AI models can potentially be leveraged to build credit score based on your alternate data sources. It could be, I'm guessing the alternative data sources could be social media activity, or it could be utility payment history, or some rental payment history. If you're talking about any use case, yes, to answer your question, yeah, definitely you can build model based on your alternate data. Is there any particular industries aligned, or is it the question is a little generic? So
this was a more generic question. But no, thank you for the answer. I think that was good. We have another question regarding how do you make sure security does not affect larger language models?
Again, as I mentioned earlier in our slide, we have a strong model which is called a shared responsible model in AWS, and we manage the infrastructure guidelines, APIs, and so on, where customer has a better control about their own data. They know their system very well. They can encrypt the data. They have better control. Even using LLMs in generative AI, for example, as I mentioned earlier, once you are done with your inquiry process or request processing, then your data is not left there. It's nothing is there. So it's only used for generating the data faster, but not it's not going to stay there. So using a shared responsibility model, the data is very secure, and they can have strong policies in implementation. I can work based on each industry. It could be healthcare or medical or financial, anything. I can send more security guidelines, which they get more idea about how we are implementing the security at AWS.
Okay, Karunakar, I think this is
I would like to take one question there. I think it's from Sydney Greenberg. She's asking on, or any other problem, like give me a list of patients on blood thinner medications. So Sydney, I'm not sure like what I mean by false. Maybe like I can say if you're giving certain medicines or injections within the hospital premise, the one possible thing is it's something called as real time. In real time, if you want to know what kind of medicines the patients are on, then the hospital should have the capability to maybe, I'm not sure how it works in the US, if there is a mobile application with nurses or cardiologist, if they can update, or there are sensors within the infrastructure within the bed itself, or any instruments connected to the centralized data of that particular hospital, and we run this particular LM on this particular database, we can always get those in real time. It can show you how many, who are the patients in on these particular medications, and everything can be done in real time. Given that, if it's in on-premise or elsewhere. So that's one thing which it is definitely is a possibility. We can list it even with the general question. If you ask with GenAI, you don't have to do a query. It can be plain English and it's going to give you the answer.
Okay, that was thank you, Nathan. That was a follow-up question to something before. So they're basically asking if they can ask the chatbot like how many patients are on a specific medication, or more specifically, like you said, like the blood thinner medications, or just like something more specific. Like if we were asking it to sort it out by like specific things about the patients, can the chatbot do that?
Definitely yes, but the EHR, when they say electronic health records, we need some time to move that particular data into a vector store, as I told you. Or if not, we have different data sources from Q. We can just have a one-on-one contact with them and check if the answers are very precise, or if we want to, if you can see with our particular demonstration, we had two use cases, right? So two different applications. So one is using Q and one is using RAG. Once we convert the data from EHR to LLM, or have an intermediate plugin which can get relevant data, and on the go also you can convert this particular text to embedding. It doesn't have to be a vector store. Again, there are different ways to do it, and once we do it and we get all the setup, anything can be done. With GenAI, I'm just saying that you just need the data and the content, and GenAI can give you all these. How precise the data is, we can't blame the LLM model if you give a bad data. So it's more of a data engineering work which has to be concentrated here. We do have perfect data engineering team back of hands. So if they work on giving this real-time data from EHR to LLM and that particular piece is complete, then our data science team can work on all this particular. It's definitely, it can be done. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Let's take one more. It was kind of a follow-up question regarding the law industry. So how can Gen AI be used in law industry? Do you have any more examples or explanations?
Karnakar, are you going to take it, please?
You can take that.
One good case we have witnessed is more of this RFPs, and if you have one, I got two questions from when I spoke with one of our AWS partner. He just said when there's a contractual agreements, and all you need to know is the date, place, time, or the duration of the tenure and the parties involved. And instead of going through all this, you just had a summarized document, get two things done. This is one. And in most law attorney cases, if it's a visa, approval of visas, and you have different data points, and the machine nowadays, I think down the lane, the machines can approve your visas or not approve based on your past data. It cannot completely take a decision though. It can help you in making decisions. So it's going to give you a summary of these are the data points. These are the points where it suggests for a person to approve the visa, or these are the points where it can be refrained from it. So intelligently we can build these systems, not only in law firms, in different law subsidiaries. You can work on it. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. So we do have a few more questions in the chat, but we're running out of time. So we'll do our best to answer as many as possible through email. As John mentioned before, all of our participants are eligible for a complimentary POC, so you can send any inquiries that you may have to John. And just once again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today and being an active part of our session. Thank you for our speakers, ITTStar and AWS. And this is Sanjana from ITTStar. Thank you so much.